We're back, folks. Alright, when we last heard from our hero, the CRUDdy Buddy app, he was having issues determining whether or not he was on a Linux or Windows system and which delimiter to use. Well, I have a solution for that. That's right. I have found the answer by using Google. Okay. So, you know our handy dandy little import OS statement? Well, our OS module comes with a way to identify what our operating system is. On Windows systems, os.name is NT. Lowercase n, lowercase t. On Linux systems, and possibly your phone, it'll be POSIX. The only other value os.name will potentially have is Java. Now, I don't know if anyone out there intends to use this on a Java system, but I don't. I'm just using it on my phone, and I'm using it on my desktop computer. I have a MacBook that I might use it on. People I know have iPhones. None of these, as far as I know, are Java systems. And I'm not making this commercially available to anyone, but if they wanted to make it, useful for their system, it would just take whatever modification it would be to do, to change the delimiter for us. Okay, so we're either going to be using this forward slash or the backslash for the file delimiter. On Linux, it's going to be this one. On Windows, it'll be this one. So we're going to play this safe and assume that Windows is the only one that uses the backslash. And we'll assume everything else uses that. So what do we have happening here? We have, instead of just opening a file with the directory and then the file name, we're inserting that file directory delimitator, the slash or the backslash, before the file name. So we'll no longer have that weird issue of Python code kittens. It'll be Python code / kittens. Hopefully. Assuming this all works properly. Now this is actually enough of a thing. I think I want to put that into its own little helper directory or function as well. So there we go. Now what this should do is we can just plug this in here. And assuming I'm not completely off my rocker, that should handle it. That should make all of our problems go away. Just making sure we haven't missed anything else where we read that. Okay. Let's save. All right. File not found. Now let's see if that actually worked this time. Python code. Kittens. Created just now. It works! Sorry, you should always insert a maniacal laugh when something works. So, we have officially fixed the issue, at least on our Windows system. I don't know for a fact that this fixes it across the board on everything. I will check that out though on my phone off stream to make sure, and I'll get back to you QPython folks, those of you using this stuff on your phone, to let you know if this breaks anything. Now, what does this mean for when we try to import this as a library? Whoop, we're scrolling in the wrong spot. Okay. So, because our file delimiter check is a function inside of our library, all of these functions should have access to this function. They should, hopefully. So if we import CRUDdy as a library into another thing, this function will be available. Alright, if we try to import just this function, we might run into some issues there, but I don't imagine that's going to be like too often, because I mean, it's a whole set of CRUD functionality. Like, you don't usually import just one part of a set like that. You might import like a like here where we have import OS path. That's a module within a module. Alright, there are all kinds of things that come along with this module, although we could just change that to this and everything should still run fine. If I remember right, Kangaroos was still there. Hey, look at that. It's our Kangaroos file from before. Now, of course, this does mean I have these extra files to clear up. Let's delete those. Okay, so we have kangaroos, doggos, kittens. Those are all in that directory. The file exists, there's just no records in it. I mean, there probably is a record, but that record is probably like the one name that's in there. Yep. That was the record that we entered in last time we were messing around in the doggos file. If you recall, that was before we started adding headers to our file by using the zero indexed item in our file output as the headers. So that's to be expected there. So let's go ahead and delete that file. I forgot to change it in the menu. There we go. Okay. We want to get rid of doggos. Deleting doggos from that. Are you sure? Yes, we are sure. Why is file N not defined? Oh, that's right. We took that out and we never corrected the name. Now, where was that at? Here we go. Okay, now I want to say there was one other spot where we did something similar. Because yeah, we used to have those statements inside of a function where we passed the values that populated that formatted string from different variable names. We forgot to change those variable names to how we're referencing them outside of those functions. Okay, that seems to be the only spot where we missed it. Save. Run that module. Alright, which one are we trying to delete, doggos? Seriously. You're just gonna blank at me, huh? Alright, so doggos is still there. Our error happened in the print statement, which, if you recall, we print just before the action that actually deletes it. Let's delete it. Yes. Deleted. Exit. No. We can just go with the default there. We want to also get rid of kangaroos. Because here, as you can see, our header is actually our first record. And when we created this file, our first record actually contained data, not headers. So we want to delete this file as well. All right. Helps if I could remember where we're at. That's not right. OneDrive. That's where we're at. Alright, we still have our kittens file. We did delete the ones from the file just above it. So, let's see. Exit, not yet. Let's check out that kittens file. No records. Okay. And we did just create that today, so it should have created properly. But we are going to make some changes to the way in which we create headers. Because right now it just does exactly what it was doing before in a just slightly different way. It creates one entry, calls it name, prints it to the file. Well, what if we don't want to use name? What if we want to call it something else? What if we want something else there? Well, right now we have no way of changing the header. So we're just going to delete the file. And we're going to start fresh. All right. Here I want to isolate the spots in which we are creating that data. Because we're going to change that. Alright, we also want to change how these all work with the read record, update record, and delete record. Now, read record is basically what's been happening here. We're taking the information from the file, we're printing it right out to the screen. However, what we're doing here, you know, doesn't feel like what we want it to do exactly. I mean, this part, sure. Read the file. And that's what we got happening here. It reads the file. So we can actually take our read file, well, that's actually what's going on here. We're just outputting it to file output. And that's fine. That's what we're expecting to happen. And then here, we're breaking it down. Alright, if it doesn't have a length of over 2, which means if there isn't anything beyond the headers, print no records. However, before that, because every file now will have at least one record, because when we create it, we're going to create, at least within our program here, where is that? Create the file. Right here, we're creating headers. Which again, is just the first entry in our file. Right now, it's just that. It's just this one thing. That's it. We'll change that in a minute. And right here also. So how do we have the create record? Takes that new data. It doesn't do anything else to it, just adds a new line, drops it in the thing, and we write it to the file. We write the whole file to the file. So we want to change this. And that's where we're going to start, because this is where the files get created. And where they get created, that's where we want to add the headers. Now what we want to do, because we don't know how many headers the user is going to want, we're going to want to loop it. But we're going to get creative here. We're going to make a list of all those header names, and then we're going to join them together and then add that. That'll be a string anyway. Okay. So we need a prompt. So since this is the first one, just gonna go first header. Because there needs to be at least one, otherwise why are you creating a program? Why are you creating a file? So we need at least one thing there, and that'll just immediately be appended as an item to our headers. Okay? Now, you know, I don't think I want to do it that way. No. No. We've got a better option for that, because this would force us to have to put in a special keyword in order to exit out of entering it, and we're putting it in the same spot as the other thing. So here we're going to do this. Okay. Assuming this does what I think it does. And what I think it does is as follows. Okay, we get here, the file's created. We start a new list. First thing we do is append to that list the first header, which is just whatever our user inputs right here. And that's just immediately and directly appended to the list we created. Then we enter a loop where it asks us, would we like to continue? And it's just going to ask us that at the top of each loop. Continue, 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 continue. And as long as you keep hitting yes, there we go. Not exit, because we want it to be true, because while true, loop on this. If you say anything other than yes, it'll assume you're done. It'll kick you out of this loop. It'll stop asking you to add another header. In theory, we're going to test this and find out if it works. Alright, and then we end all this nonsense with a call to create the record, which opens the file, as you recall. Where's my create record? Create record. We read the file in, we add the new data. Now, because this is a new file, there will be nothing to read in. Should be nothing to read in. Alright, and the new data that we're submitting is this list we just created. But we're going to turn that into a single string separated out by commas. Now this will make it interesting when we get to the file output part. We shouldn't need any changes yet because it still treats every entry as a single line, but it's not going to space those out. You're just going to see a bunch of stuff smushed together with commas. Alright. When we're going to change our record reading to space those out. Next. But let's see if this works first. What? Where? What? Oh, right. Let's just get rid of that for now. Okay. There shouldn't be any files. Shouldn't be a kittens file. Create it now? Why, yes. Yes, we will. There's a difference between header and headers. And, apparently I didn't make that distinction. So let's try that again. No records. Okay, we gotta delete that file because we screwed it up. Created erroneous output. Okay. File not found. Created? Why, yes. First header. Name. Continue? Yes. Next header. Color. Continue? Yes. Next header. Fluffiness. And we're done. List object has no... Did I spell it wrong? No, that's giant. It's definitely join. W3 schools. I like W3 schools. All right. Okay. I did do that wrong. Apparently. Apparently it's this. Alright, let's delete the one that we were working with previously. Create the file now. Yes. First header, name, continue. Yes. Next header, color, continue. Yes. Next header, fluffiness. It makes a difference if you add the file extension, because it doesn't know to check for things without a file extension. Alright, so we have no record. Let's add a record. Alright, so alright, so as you can see, it did take our headers and it did make them into a comma delimitered list. Now we just have to output that properly. And for that, go because remember here, after we've created the file, we go into it, we read the file. So no matter what, there's always going to be at least one record, and that first record should be our headers. Whoop. I forgot. Okay. We got a function here, has an open and close parentheses, but that's inside another function which also needs an open and close parentheses. Every time you open, make sure you close. Same number of times. It matters. Now this should be interesting. Okay. Now, we probably would want to strip the special character off the end of that last one. But as you can see, it is now separated out our headers, which is fine. That's what we wanted. It's what we're expecting. And we can even make this a bit more interesting. Actually, we'll go tabs. We'll go tabs. Okay, how many entries do we have here? Okay, so there's a number, which we're using the index of the file record. It's not something that's actually printed to the file, it's just what line it ends up being on. Name, color, and fluffiness, though. Alright, so this will split it out into a list. Alright, let's do this first. Okay, so what this does is takes that first record, turns it into our headers. Headers, not herders. Okay. Save that. Run that module. It helps if I can count. There we go. Ta-da! Although it's still printing out that first one again. So we can get rid of that. And instead, I'm going to replace it with this, because I've been putting that in the wrong spot. There we go. Alright, because if there's no records, I just wanted to print no records. Although, it should print that after it prints the header either way. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. There we go. That makes sense. Now, I do have one problem with the way we've done this. And that is, we're not going to know how many headers ahead of time. Here, we already knew there were 3, but when we create files in the future, I mean, there could be 7, 8, 27,453. We don't know. We don't know. And it would seem silly for us to assume that it's just always going to be 3. Alright, so how do we fix that? No, I'm also going to see if I can do... Is it the strip that removes the special characters at the end? Hey, look at that. We managed to get rid of the special character that was causing that extra line break. Hooray, I did a thing. Although... I do like there being some kind of break between. So I'm just going to do that. Alright, so we've got a divider that, you know, this is clearly the headers, this is clearly going to be the data. Okay. We now also know a couple of things. We know how many fields there are once we have a header count. And we know that by splitting this up. And then we'll have we have our headers individualized. We can count them with length. That's the length function right there. Len, len. Stands for length. Tells us how many fields we got. So, we're going to get a little fancy. We're going to create a string. Started off with nothing, and then for the length of fields, now we started that with the number for the record, and then a tab, right? So let's do that. Alright, so this will take that string and add to it the headers. plus another tab. And because we don't know when it's gonna hit that last header, we just better add that. Remove the new line character at the end to each one of them. So we're gonna save that. We're gonna run that module. Oh shoot, I didn't replace this part. We should replace that part. There we go. Alright, when it's all said and done, we've got our header. Print it, followed by... Let's remove a few of those. Okay. If I did this right... How many times are you going to hear that, huh? If I did this right. Well, hot diggity darn. Ain't that the exact same thing we did before? Well, I'll bet you it is. I'm gonna do one more fancy thing. This is entirely pointless, this part. There we go. I can't count parentheses, apparently. Divider is not defined. It is now. Okay. It's not quite right yet, is it? No, and the reason why is because of the tabs. So, let's try a little something crazy, huh? Now what we're doing here right now, entirely pointless. We do not need to waste our time with this. But I am, because I feel like it. Because, why not? Okay, so we want to make sure it's the same length. All right, let's try that. And I know what you're thinking. Multiplying a string? Yes, multiplying a string. That's right. I have underlined the headers. I know, a whole lot of messing around for a very, very, kind of so what aspect. But, I mean, come on, you gotta admit that's kind of cool, right? You gotta admit that's pretty neat. That is pretty neat. But what have we got going on here? Well, we have figured out the number of fields. And for each field, we tease out one of the headers, strip it of any special characters, so that last one that's got the new line entry character, we'll have that removed so it doesn't just automatically add a new line. Because what happens when we print out our file using this here, it just adds an extra new line because we're already adding an extra new line every time we call print. That puts everything on its own line, each print statement. So when we add an extra new line, we're getting basically, you know, an extra print statement between everything. We don't need that. That's too many extra lines. So we're doing it this way. So now that we have the ability to output multiple fields, and we have a model for creating our record, we're going to copy this. We want to go to this part here where we add a record. Right here. There you go. We're going to change this to record data. Now, at this point, do we have an idea of what our prompt is? We should have our headers. And actually, we can take this one out. And instead of having it confirm each one, we're going to do a for loop. For item in file headers. Because we want to make sure we're getting an entry for each of the columns. We're going to do oh, we're just using headers. Where did I get file headers from? Actually, we can just use item here. Okay. So we have one record on here that's incorrect. No longer meets our... So we're going to delete that one. No records. So let's add a record. Name, Tom, color, black, fluffiness, extra. Okay. Now, looking at the record, it doesn't quite space them all out, but that's because we haven't done that yet. What it does do is it takes all of the information and it does turn it into a single record. So we're creating records properly. Now we just want to use this file output we're going to copy this. For each of the records, although we don't need this, we've already done this. Fields should still be declared. go. We don't need to update divider because we're not using divider anymore. Let's see here. We do need to do this, though. Okay, we take that big long list of file output, and for the one that's in there, we need to split that up. It's a loop within a loop, so we need to use a different index. Get rid of the divider line. Okay. If that does what I think it does, not quite, but close. Very close. Very close. Alright, we're adding a print statement for each of those. We need to just do a print statement when it's done. So take that out of the previous block. Ta-da! Alright, let's see what happens when we add another one. Okay, we now have a very simple Excel sort of spreadsheet program thingy, and it works. So, we even have the ability to go with multiple fields in a record, read multiple fields in a record, write multiple fields in a record, display them all. But what happens when we update multiple fields in a record? Update first one. Enter a new name. We run into a problem. We've changed the entire record to just Jim. Just Jim. So, because right here, the only thing we're doing is we're adding the one entry. What we need to do is like what we did before. All right. And here again, we're using headers. Item in there, so we're just reading from the headers. And that should be something that's already populated up here. And there it joins all the record data as one record, outputs it. We need to change that though. Because when we create a record, we're already writing it to the file. So we can take out this part here. We were smart. We made our create record already deal with that. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't just let us change one entry or, you know, one field. This is going to make us step through each one and retype it. We can elaborate on this part so that it prints out, you know, a list of the fields. You select which field you want to change and then you change it. But for now, I just want to see if this part works. Oh, but first, we're gonna need to fix our kitten file. Okay. Our file works again. Now, we're going to update existing record. It should step through each one. Name, we want to keep the name Tom. He's more of a dark gray. He's not very fluffy. He got a haircut. Presents a bit of a conundrum, doesn't it? Because what it did was it took our entry for Tom and just appended it. Which I suppose isn't terrible, but we now have 2 entries for Tom. We need to delete the first one. Now we told it which record to delete. And what it should have done was it should have removed Tom. Should have deleted that, but I suppose we didn't enter any code for doing so. Although our code here would still work for that. This would still, if we put this right here, seriously. It's gonna do that? Okay. Alright. Fine. Alright. If we put that right there. Right after we create the data for our new entry, we popped off the old one. I suppose we can get rid of this. Because this should delete the old one. And then our call to create the record will write the new one. Let's find out. Okay. So let's delete that new record of Tom we put in there. Okay, so we're back to what we had before we tried to update Tom. Now we're going to try to update Tom again. Which record? Number 1. Name. Tom. Oh, we've decided he's more of a gray. And he got a haircut, so it's not very fluffy anymore. Nope. Still there. It's still there. Why is it still there? Why? Why? You know, I'm not really sure why. Because this should have removed. The old record, but that apparently does not do squat. Alright, so I wanted to call this session a little early. I'm still going to do that. But this does pose an interesting dilemma for us to consider. When we update a record, we need to be able to extract that old record, change the data, put it back in, and then print it so that it's not adding a new record, it's changing the old one. Now we can create the illusion of that by having it remove the old one when it adds the new one. But where to effectively do that? And then the other part is, we got one of these as a function. We need to get the rest of these as a function as well. So we're going to work on that. When we come back to this next week, Tuesday, I believe. Although, do watch my schedule. I am planning to make some small changes, small tweaks to my schedule. Doing 2 sessions a day, 2 hours apiece, with an hour break in between. It's alright, but, you know, it does eat up, you know, a good part of my morning. I mean, that's a 5-hour block altogether, counting my lunch hour. And I'd like to do other things. So, I'm not sure if I'm going to just stream mornings or just stream afternoons. But I'm pretty sure one of the shifts is going to go for both coding and gaming. But what I intend to do is make the one that I'm keeping just a little bit longer. Maybe start it a little earlier, end it a little later. So instead of a 2-hour block, you get maybe a 3-hour block to make up for that. And we'll see how that goes. I mean, I don't want to cut it back too much. And then I'm probably going to start just randomly streaming games again in the afternoons, like evening hours. So, you know, in addition to my scheduled time, I'm still going to just jump on when I feel like it and stream a game. But I will still have that schedule of regular content that people can expect, peppered with, you know, randomness. Anyway, we've made some changes, we've solved some problems, and we've stumbled on some new ones. We're going to keep working on this. When we come back, I will have filled out some more of this documentation stuff. I'm not going to touch these because I want to show you the solution to those on stream. And we might do something different with this menu thing. But anyway, I do want to thank you all for joining me for this coding session. I hope you're learning lots. I don't feel like we learned a whole lot that last session, though we did figure out some stuff. If you ever have any questions, feel free to ask. I don't bite. In fact, I'm really good at answering really stupid questions. The dumber, the better. Y'all can even feel free to try trolling me. I'm okay with it. Really, I am. Yeah, we'll be back tomorrow with some Murph plays a random video game. Saturday, more Murph plays a random video game. Tomorrow is Saturday. Yes, tomorrow is Saturday. And don't forget midnight, Saturday night, the Murph Midnight Movie presentation. I'll be bringing you another horror movie. Still don't know which one. Probably gonna leave it to the last minute to decide. I've got a few to choose from. It's fine. It'll be a good one. Probably. I mean, it'll be terrible acting and it'll be in black and white, but it'll be a good one. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Hope you all have a wonderful day.